The rain fell in hard metallic sheets, bouncing off helmets and pooling in the craters that scarred the once quiet French countryside. The year was 1944, and Private Daniel Mercer could feel every second pressing down on him like the weight of history itself. The thunder of artillery was constant, distant yet never far enough, a reminder that men were dying just beyond the ridge. He clutched his rifle tighter, though his hands were numb from the cold and mud that seemed determined to swallow him whole. War was meant to be glory. That's what he'd been told when he enlisted. But glory had drowned in rivers of blood months ago. Now it was survival, one breath at a time. He thought of home, of the little house in Ohio with the chipped white paint and the girl he had promised to marry when this nightmare ended. Her last letter was tucked into his breast pocket, already worn soft from the countless times he unfolded it under the flickering light of a soldier's lantern. But tonight something felt different. The world seemed to shiver around him as if the air itself was charged with a storm not born of weather. The ground rumbled, not with the steady beat of artillery, but with something deeper, something stranger. He turned to his sergeant to ask if he had felt it too, but the words died on his lips, because in the moment between one heartbeat and the next, the battlefield was gone. The mud, the rain, the thunder shells, all of it blinked out. In its place was silence. He stumbled forward, blinking against a new kind of light, softer, almost sterile. His boots, caked with mud a moment before, now tapped against smooth steel. He gasped, spinning around, rifle raised, only to find himself inside what looked like the belly of a machine, walls humming with unseen power, lights pulsing in strange rhythms. His breath caught in his throat. This wasn't 1944. It wasn't anywhere he knew. His first thought was that he'd been hit, that this was the fevered dream of a dying man. But when he pressed a trembling hand to his chest, he felt no wound, no blood. The letter from home was still there, pressed against his heart. He whispered into the silence, "Where the hell am I?" And then came the voice. Not human, not quite. It reverberated from the walls, deep and resonant, as if the machine itself were speaking. Temporal anomaly detected. Human subject, anomaly classification. He spun, searching for the source, his rifle clutched tight, but there was nothing. No soldiers, no allies, no enemies. Just him and a machine that seemed alive. Subject, the voice continued. You are not authorized to be here. Yeah, well, Daniel muttered under his breath, trying to steady the panic rising in his chest. I didn't exactly buy a ticket. The walls shifted then, sliding open without a sound, revealing a vast chamber filled with figures. At first he thought they were men, but as his eyes adjusted, his heart froze. They were tall, too tall, their limbs too long, their skin shimmering in hues of silver and pale blue that rippled like liquid metal. Their eyes glowed faintly, and when they moved, it was with a grace that made him feel clumsy, small. Aliens! He had landed in the company of creatures not of his world. One stepped forward, head tilting as it regarded him with something between curiosity and disdain. This is the anomaly? It asked, its voice layered, as if more than one being spoke at once. Daniel swallowed hard, forcing himself not to step back. He had survived Normandy. He had survived the mud, the shells, the endless death. He would survive this. Name, the creature demanded. Private Daniel Mercer, United States Army, he said, squaring his shoulders. His voice was steady, though every instinct screamed to run. The alien exchanged a glance with his fellows, and for a moment he swore he saw something like fear flicker in their glowing eyes. 1944, one of them whispered, almost reverent. The war cycle, the fracture point. They moved closer, circling him, their forms blurring at the edges as if they were not fully bound to the same reality he was. What's going on? Daniel demanded, his voice echoing in the strange chamber. Where am I? You are outside of your time, the first alien said. You have crossed the veil. This is a forbidden place for your kind. I didn't cross anything, Daniel snapped. 1 minute I was in France, the next. He gestured wildly at the impossible chamber. This, whatever this is. The aliens conferred in their strange, layered voices, words overlapping in a tongue he couldn't hope to understand. Finally, The leader turned back to him. You are not meant to be here, yet you are here. This cannot be allowed. Daniel's grip tightened on his rifle. He knew when men looked at him like he was a problem to be solved, not a person. Try to stop me, he muttered under his breath. The alien's eyes glowed brighter, and the walls of the chamber pulsed in response. Your species is dangerous. You are chaos-bound in flesh. You fight without end, even against yourselves. That war you left behind, it is but one of countless wars you will wage. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He didn't know how these creatures could know about humanity's future, but something in their voices rang with truth. If you know so much, he said, then you know we don't give up easy. The alien studied him for a long moment, then inclined its head slightly, almost in respect. That, it said, is the problem. The chamber dissolved around him in a blur of light and sound, and suddenly Daniel was somewhere else again. He staggered, boots slipping on uneven ground. The air was hot, dry, the sky a color he had never seen before, a pale orange streaked with purple. Towers of glass and steel rose around him, broken and abandoned, the ruins of a city that must have been magnificent once. But it was dead now, silent, except for the whisper of the wind through shattered windows. He turned in a slow circle, heart pounding. This wasn't France. It wasn't even Earth. And yet he could feel it. The echoes of war, the scars left behind by battles long finished. He raised his voice, though he wasn't sure who he was calling to. What do you want from me? The answer came not from the sky, but from inside his head. The alien voice, but softer now, almost intimate. We want to understand why you endure, why you survive when others break. You are an echo of a time long past, yet you stand before us. You are the ghost of 1944, and your presence bends a weave of existence. Daniel's mouth went dry. He thought of the boys he had lost, of the faces in the mud, of the night spent praying to see the sun rise. He thought of how he had kept walking, even when it felt like the world had ended. I endure, he said quietly, because I have to, because someone has to. The wind howled through the ruins, as if an answer, and far above, in the orange sky, something moved, massive, dark, blotting out the sun. He squinted, and his blood ran cold. It was a ship larger than any battleship, larger than any city he had ever seen, and it was descending. The ship filled the sky, blotting out the strange sun until the ruins were cast into shadow, and Daniel felt his breath hitch in his throat. It was not made like the machines of men, no rivets, no seams, no engines he could recognize. It was smooth, a vast obsidian curve etched with veins of light that pulsed like the beat of a heart. As it descended, the ground trembled, the wind whipped around him, and the ruins themselves seemed to groan in protest. He raised a hand against a gale, his rifle clutched to his chest, a relic in the face of something beyond comprehension. Yet as alien as it was, something in the ship stirred a feeling deep inside him. An echo of the same dread he felt on the beaches of Normandy, the certainty that death was falling from the sky. A ramp unfolded with liquid grace, and figures emerged, silhouettes tall and slender, their forms shifting like smoke in the strange orange light. Daniel tensed, his body remembering the rhythm of ambushes and firefights. He counted them as they came, 6 of them, each moving with a fluid precision that made him think of predators, not men. The tallest stepped forward, its voice ringing not from his mouth, but in his mind. Anomaly Mercer. You are here because the weave demands it. This moment is convergence. He spat into the dust, anger rising in him like fire. You keep throwing me around like a damn chess piece. Why me? Why now? The alien tilted its head, as if considering the question. Because humanity is unfinished, dangerous. Every war you fight should have ended you, yet you endure. We do not understand. Daniel let out a sharp laugh, bitter and ragged. You don't have to understand. We survive because we don't know how to quit. That's all there is to it. The alien's glowing eyes narrowed. We have seen empires burn. We have seen species rise and collapse in cycles older than your world. None claw their way forward as yours does. You should have fallen, yet you rise. Daniel took a step forward, shoulders squared, defiance carved into every line of his weary face. That's what makes us human. We rise. The alien raised a long, shimmering hand, and suddenly the world around him dissolved again, replaced by another vision. This time it was a battlefield not his own, though it felt achingly familiar. Towers burned in the distance, skies blackened by smoke. Strange machines clashed in the streets, their weapons scorching the earth. He heard screams, alien voices, yet the fear in them was unmistakable. He stumbled back, clutching his rifle, until he realized he wasn't alone. Beside him stood soldiers, human soldiers. But their uniforms weren't the olive drab of 1944. These men and women wore armor that gleamed with strange alloys, weapons that burned with light instead of bullets. Yet their faces were the same. Young, determined, filled with the same fire he had seen in the eyes of every boy who stormed the beaches with him. One of them turned to him, eyes wide beneath a cracked visor. "You're out of place," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "But so are we all the time. That's what it means to be human." Then she charged into fray, shouting words he didn't understand, and the others followed. Daniel watched, heart hammering, as they fought not for conquest but for each other, dragging the wounded to safety, holding the line against impossible odds. And in that moment he understood what the aliens feared. Humanity's wars weren't just destruction. They were proof that even in the darkest hell, humans found a way to stand together. Proof that survival wasn't an accident. It was their nature. The vision shattered, leaving him once more in the ruins beneath the massive ship. The alien's voice came again, quieter now. "Do you see why we fear you?" Daniel met its gaze without flinching. "No, you don't fear us. You fear what will become. You fear a future you can't control." For the first time, the alien hesitated. Its form flickered, its voice faltering. "Perhaps you are correct." The others shifted uneasily, their glowing eyes darting between Daniel and their leader. The silence stretched, broken only by the low hum of the massive ship above them. Finally, the leader spoke again. "Then you must be tested, not for us, but for the weave itself." The ground split open, and Daniel was hurled into darkness. He landed hard, rolling onto stone that glowed faintly beneath his hands. He pushed himself up, wincing, and looked around. He was in a cavern, vast and endless, filled with pillars carved with symbols that twisted when he tried to look at them. In the center was a pedestal, and on it lay something he knew as surely as he knew his own heartbeat. His rifle. Not the M1 Garand he had carried through France, but something older, heavier, as if forged from memory itself. He reached out, fingers trembling, and the moment he touched it, the cavern erupted in light. Figures rose from the shadows, shapes of men, but not men. They were the echoes of every enemy he had faced, every nightmare of war given form. He lifted the rifle, bracing himself. If this was a test, he would not fail. They came at him in waves, silent and relentless, and he fought. Each pull of the trigger was a roar of defiance, each step forward a refusal to yield. His arms burned, his lungs screamed, but he kept moving, kept fighting, because that's what it always done. When the last figure fell, dissolving into smoke, he collapsed his knees, gasping for air. The cavern was silent again, the pedestal empty, and then the voice returned. "You endure, as always." The world shifted, and he was back beneath the alien ship, the figures watching him in silence. The leader's eyes glowed brighter now, but not with disdain, with something like respect. "Ghost of 1944, it said, the words echoing in his mind. "You are proof of what we feared, proof of what we admire. You are the fracture point, the reminder that humanity cannot be erased." Daniel rose slowly, gripping his rifle. "So what now? You gonna send me back to die in the mud?" The alien tilted its head. "That is your choice. You are bound to your time, yet unbound. The weave bends around you. You may return or you may walk forward into the futures you glimpsed." His heart twisted. He thought of his brothers in arms, of the girl waiting back in Ohio, of the promise he had made. He thought of the weight of history pressing on his shoulders. He swallowed hard. "Send me back. They need me there." The alien inclined its head, and for the first time, it almost looked human in the gesture. So be it. But know this, Daniel Mercer, you will never truly leave this place. You are written into the fabric now. When your world looks to the dark, they will remember the ghost of 1944. Light engulfed him, blinding, searing, and when it faded he was back in the mud, the rain lashing against his helmet, the thunder of artillery filling his ears. His rifle was heavy in his hands, his heart racing. For a moment he wondered if it had all been a dream. But when he reached into his pocket for the letter, his fingers brushed something else, a shard of metal, smooth and glowing faintly, etched with symbols not of earth. He stared at it, breath catching. Not a dream. He closed his fist around it, a grim smile tugging at his lips. The sergeant shouted for him to move, and he rose, running through the mud, the roar of war around him. But something inside him had changed. He had seen the future. He had stood before beings who feared humanity not for what it was, but for what it would become. And he knew, with a certainty that burned brighter than any shell fire, that they were right to fear. Because no matter how many times the world tried to break them, no matter how many wars tore them apart, humanity would rise again. Always. And as he charged forward into the chaos of 1944, Private Daniel Mercer felt the weight of countless futures at his back. He was no longer just a soldier. He was the ghost of 1944, and the universe would never forget.